What's up guys, how you doing? Welcome to another video. So today we're talking about one of the most valuable investments you can make if you are starting out doing your photography professionally, even semi-professionally, in any kind of sort of official capacity. One of the most valuable investments you can make, and that is insurance. That's right, today's video is going to be exciting, it's going to be fun and thrilling. We're talking about insurance. So for you guys who have no interest in insurance, maybe this is not the most interesting topic in the world, this video might not be for you. But what I would say is, if you haven't got insurance, or maybe if you've got insurance and you're kind of looking at some new options and you want to see what the policies include or don't include, I think this could be a good video for you. Before we get into that, I'm going to ask you guys to do all of the usual YouTube stuff for me. Hit that like button, hit the thumbs up on the video, because it helps me out loads and loads. It helps my video get out there to more people, and this one in particular I think could be useful. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Loads of other videos to come on this channel. Okay, so insurance. Now, I did a video just recently where I talked about some of the best investments that you wouldn't regret. And one of the things I talked about was insurance. And I got a couple of questions, a couple of people sent me personal messages and a few other bits asking me about insurance. I had people asking about, like, what's the difference between public liability insurance and personal indemnity insurance and other questions like that. I even had somebody who felt like they thought insurance wasn't necessary at all and I was being silly about it, which I completely disagree with, but hey, anyway, I'm gonna talk about that today. So first of all, why do you need insurance? Well, quite simply, you need insurance for several different reasons, right? Number one, because it protects you with the value of your gear. We all know, unfortunately, camera gear is very expensive, and if you're going out there to shoot some kind of event, chances are you're gonna have maybe at least 2 camera bodies, perhaps a third for a backup. You're gonna have a couple of decent lenses, maybe even 3 or 4 lenses. Unfortunately, with photography, it does not take a huge amount for your camera bag to be worth £10,000 or more. And you need some kind of insurance for that, right? You don't just want to be heading out there, taking your gear in the back of your car and taking it out to events and using it, maybe having to leave it somewhere and it not be insured. There's 2 risks. Number one, it could get damaged. Number 2, it could unfortunately get stolen. So you need that kind of protection for your investment. The second big thing you need insurance for, and the thing that I have, is public liability insurance. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that is in 1 second. But what that basically does is protect you from any kind of claim that might be made against you if you have caused somebody some kind of damage. Maybe you've accidentally caused someone some kind of injury. Maybe your equipment has caused somebody injury. Now, a lot of different leagues, if you're applying for accreditation, will require you to have public liability insurance. You'll have to show the certificate and prove that you have it. It varies. Some of the leagues, like for example, I shoot with the British Basketball League, they require me to have £1 million public liability insurance. But other leagues, for example the Premier League, they require you to have £5 million public liability insurance. Now don't worry, it doesn't cost us anything like £5 million, but the insurance covers you up to that much. So you might be thinking, okay, fine, but what's that public liability insurance going to do? Well, it's just going to protect you, because whilst it might be very unlikely, there is a possibility, especially if you're shooting sports, where you're sitting out there maybe on the end of a field or the end of a basketball court, where it is possible you could cause someone injury. Players or officials could easily trip over remote cameras, fall over your gear, come out of the playing area and land on you and your equipment, and it is possible that somebody could get hurt. Whilst it might seem unreasonable to you, it's also possible that you could get blamed for that injury, and that's what public liability insurance protects you from. Now, when you're taking on insurance, another thing which you will quite often see within the policy, or you might get offered it as like an additional extra, and that is personal indemnity insurance. Now, indemnity insurance is a little bit different from public liability insurance, and by that I mean indemnity insurance protects you if somebody tries to sue you for a mistake that you have made in your work. So that could be some kind of negligence within your business. It could be something like a data breach. You might accidentally share a client's personal information or personal data with somebody else. It could be some kind of negligent mistake that then has an impact on your client and they try to sue you for that. And that's what the personal indemnity insurance is there for. So I suppose depending on the type of photography you're doing and the type of business you're picking up, that could be an important one for you. People like wedding and event photographers will most probably have something like personal indemnity insurance just to protect them when things sometimes, unfortunately, can go wrong. Another added extra you'll often see within policies is a thing called personal accident insurance. That one is to protect you. That's if you're out and about and you have an accident whilst you're working, whilst you're out there doing your photography work and you hurt yourself, that's insurance that can protect you from all the fees, the medical bills and everything else, loss of earnings that comes from you having had that accident. So personal accident insurance is to protect you personally if you have an accident whilst you're working. Most photographers will be doing their work on a self-employed basis, so you don't have the same level of like medical protection and things like that that you might do if you're in an employed job. And that's where personal accident insurance can become handy. Then you get into the insurance of the actual gear itself. Now there's a couple of things that I would always recommend with this. First of all, you want to make sure that you have all of your expensive gear insured. Now most photography insurance companies will require you to tell them exactly what you have. My previous insurance company actually needed the serial numbers from each of my cameras and lenses and my laptop and all of the things I had insured. My new insurance company doesn't have that, but I've still had to kind of name the gear. I've had to say I've got one camera worth this amount of money, one lens worth this amount of money, and so on down the list. Now make sure when you're doing that you cover everything that is going to be of value to you. So for example with me, I've got all of my camera bodies, all of my lenses, my laptop and my other expensive accessories insured. I haven't bothered doing some of the cheaper bits, like I've got an old 18 to 55mm lens. I haven't named that on the insurance because I'm willing to take the risk with that one and I could cover the cost of that if I did have to. An important point with this one is always make sure when you're listing the value of your gear, you've got to make sure you're listing the value that it would cost you to replace that camera or that lens. So with this specifically, I always recommend insuring the amount to replace old with new. And what I mean is I could go and buy a 1DX used on eBay for maybe £1,000. But if that was to become broken or stolen and I had to replace it, chances are I might need to replace that with a new camera. I will not be able to buy a new camera for £1,000. So I insure it for the amount that it's going to cost me to buy a new camera. So worst case scenario, and it does become damaged or stolen, I can use the insurance to get a replacement for me. That will of course make the insurance a little bit more expensive, but you may be talking a couple of few pounds per month extra when really you could be saving yourself thousands of pounds if things did go wrong. Now when you're looking at different insurance policies, it's so important to read through the detail of that specific equipment insurance and what it does and doesn't include. For example, when I've been shopping around policies, I've seen policies where the basic policy only covers the equipment whilst it's in your house. And that's great. I suppose it protects you from like theft or fire damage maybe. But a lot of the time, the places when your gear might get stolen or damaged is when you're out and about working, away from your house. And to do that, it was like a whole extra policy and ended up costing loads more. There are other policies, like my current one, that covers you when you're taking your gear out and about. You need to make sure you read the detail of where that is. Some policies will only cover your gear when it's in the UK, some will cover you when you're in Europe or worldwide, some of them will cover you for like a certain period of time. So maybe they might say, we'll cover you for the entire year in the UK and we'll cover you for up to 30 days in Europe or worldwide. So maybe if you're somebody like myself who's going to do all of their work in the UK, but maybe might go for a couple of weeks holiday and you might take some of your camera equipment with you, well then that covers you during that 30-day period when you're abroad. Other important bits to look out for within the detail of insurance are things like where the gear has to be for it to be covered. I've seen policies which say things like it protects your gear whilst it's in your car, but then it will go on to say, unless the car is left unattended. Well, what level of detail does that include? So for example, if you're on your way to the job and you pull into a petrol station, you leave your car for a minute to go pay for your petrol or your fuel, and your car gets stolen, does that mean the gear was unattended and so you then don't have your valid insurance? You've got to get into the detail of these policies and make sure you're clear on what it does and doesn't include. My policy now includes my equipment whilst it's in the boot of my car, provided it is A, not visible from outside the car, and B, that it's secure, as in the car is locked. But on that point, I would never recommend leaving your gear in your car unattended, unless maybe something like that where 2 minutes you've got to run and get your fuel. Try to avoid doing that, like, at all. Just not worth it to leave your gear unattended. Of course, there'll be certain things like negligence. If I went and took all my camera equipment and put it outside on the street, no insurance policy is going to cover that. That would count as you leaving your gear unattended, not secured, and pretty much every insurance policy out there is going to say, I'm sorry, we're not covering you for that. But either way, it's important to get into the detail, read every aspect of your policy to make sure you know what it does include and what it doesn't include. Okay, so how's about where do you get insurance from? Well, you know what? Go on Google photography insurance, lots of different things come up. I don't have necessarily any personal recommendations because I have not tried every insurance company out there. What I can tell you is about the two that I personally have used. Previously, my photography insurance was through a company called PhotoGuard. They had a good policy, it covered everything, all of my equipment, my public liability, everything like that, all in one policy with PhotoGuard. And I'll link PhotoGuard in the description below if you want to go check it out. I had my insurance with them for about 5 or 6 years, and just recently, in fact this year, I moved my policy from PhotoGuard to PolicyBee. Now, there was nothing wrong with PhotoGuard, I didn't dislike their policies or their insurance, but what I did notice was that it was working out slightly more expensive, and I didn't have the same level of control. It kind of seemed like I had to go for everything or not much at all, whereas when I was shopping around and I looked at PolicyBee, it kind of gave you a little bit more of a pick and mix, and you could kind of choose the bits you needed and leave out the bits that you think you didn't need. And that saved me money. So to give you an idea, I was paying, I think, about £35 per month with PhotoGuard, and now I'm only paying about £20 per month. And the policy covers everything that I need, so I'm really, really pleased with it. Again, I'm going to link PolicyBee in the description below, and I'm actually going to put a link in the description where if you do want to go check it out, it can save you a little bit of money. Now, this video is not sponsored by PolicyBee or anything like that. That is just my insurance company that I use. Full disclosure, that link is like a referral link, so if you do use it, it saves you a bit of money, and I think it can also save me a little bit on my insurance renewal as well. So full disclosure, that's what it is, not a sponsored video, just my link to the insurance that I currently use. Check it out if you want to, entirely up to you guys. And I think that's just about it. We could probably make an hour's video about insurance, but no one's going to watch that. So hopefully you guys have watched this, and if you watched this far, thank you very much. Do me a favour, hit the thumbs up on the video, helps me out loads and loads. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If you've got any other insurance related questions, stick them in the comments. I'll try and come back and answer as many of those as I can. In the meantime, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.